discuss about server-side rendering. In server-side rendering, the client sends a request via the HTTP protocol to the backend, which is the server. The server then queries a database for required data, and then this data is processed by a template engine which uses an HTML template to plug the data into the template. The final output of this template engine is a HTML document which has the data that was required or requested from the client side. This is then prepared to send to the front end as a response to the request. The HTML web page is sent to the client side as a response to the request. This data is rendered by the server on the client's screen. The browser parses the HTML and then displays the data onto the client side. This approach is very useful while working with search engine crawler algorithms. It optimizes the search engine optimization of a site, as there is less JavaScript to be processed onto the front end, which is on the client side. However, a lot of modern websites are using client-side rendering done with any framework. There are popular frameworks available these days are NextJs, NuxtJs, PHP, and Ruby on Rails. In the enterprise, Java is used a lot for such purpose. .NET frameworks are also a choice for such tasks. Server-side rendered web pages have a good SEO, but they may lack functionality and may require frequent requests to the server. Rendering is when the client sends a request to the backend with some data, which can be a GET request over HTTP or a POST request. In the POST request, the data is sent in the body of the request. This request is received by an application at the server side. The application queries a database and it puts the data in a format that can be exchanged with the client side. This format can be a JSON format, which stands for JavaScript Object Notation. This is then sent to the client side. On the client side, the client receives the response, which contains the data in a format that can be exchanged. The client then parses the data, and then the application logic is applied on the client side, which renders the data into the HTML. Client-side rendering is used in many single-page applications these days. A lot of JavaScript framework or UI libraries use client-side rendering. Server-side rendering gives better SEO, but client-side rendering gives rich functionality, and a lot of JavaScript code runs on the client side, which handles the sending of requests to the server and then fetching the data from the backend and displaying it onto the user's screen. Client-side rendering applications are more interactive and does not require frequent server requests for loading bulk of HTML content from the server side. A lot of client-side rendering logic is mostly written in JavaScript, or at least for the web apps. JavaScript works closely with the browser and is the language of the web and is widely used in the client-side rendering. A lot of client-side rendering frameworks or the front-end frameworks use JavaScript. Popular examples are Vue.js, Angular, and ReactJS.